Okay, I've rewired the bike because the wiring behind the headlamp was completely hideous. It was just like a snake's wedding. It was horrid. I've got pictures on my Instagram account. So to tidy it up, I've moved the switch gear to waterproof connectors further down the frame. Left hand switch gears there, right hand switch gears there. Used thin gauge trailer wire for LED trailers. It's rated for 11 amps, so it's plenty strong enough. But whilst I was checking out the clocks, I think I've earthed the live feed to the battery warning light. It did go crack when I put the voltmeter on it. I had the terminal, got a new voltmeter, and I didn't read the instructions and put the connections in the wrong holes. That's the old wiring loom. And I think I've shorted out the diode board because I've got no battery warning light. I've taken the diode board off, cleaned up all the earths, cleaned up all where these connections go on. This is quite a big wire, cable, whatever you want to call it, and I've got live into there. If it'll focus, I've got live to there from the battery, but there's nothing coming out the back. There's a little blue wire that comes out the back of the board. You can't see it, and that little blue wire is there. Can't see that either. On the other end of that, there's a blue wire, goes to pink, and that pink wire is there, but there's no power. I always isolate the battery on that isolator, but when I take the cover off, this cover, because if you touch that, you earth that out and it'll instantly kill itself. All it is a load of diodes. You can see them. There's a little one, there's 6 big ones, 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom, 5 little ones, and this is your rectifier. That rectifies the angry pixies coming out of there from AC to DC, which then goes through your regulator, which regulates the power into the battery. This is an adjustable one. On BMWs, they sort of sit up here somewhere. So to overcome all this, my wife has bought me a rec, which basically comes standard on bikes now since sort of the 80s, really. I mean, this thing is this is a big boy. This is a right big old beast. You got your 3 yellows from the alternator. Red and green go straight to the battery. The orange will go to the, you can either, it's through a bulb, through your warning light, through the warning light, or you can just wire it straight without a bulb. You need a 2.12 volt 2 watt bulb to energize the, or excite the rec, so it does what it does and sends power to the battery. You got an earth. Your brown and your blacks will go, I'm not showing you this very well. Your brown and your blacks will go to your D minus and the DF, I think. So those two wires will go there. The orange will go up to your battery warning. This will be taken off, and the associated wiring loom for it, which is these three bullet connectors. These three bullet connectors here. Those three go down to the back of the diode board, so the diode board will come off. That will go. The wiring for it will go. The regulator will go. So instead of having a rectifier and a regulator, I'll have a reg, which I will mount, I imagine, where the battery used to go, in there. I think it should be big enough. Next to me, remote oil filter for the gearbox oil. That's for the gearbox oil cooler, gearbox oil pump, engine oil cooler. So once I strip that off, I've had this problem before. What happened after I rewired it, fired it all up, ran lovely. The next day I came out, hadn't touched a thing. The tank was already on it, petrol was already in it, would not start. When I took the plugs out, I noticed that when I turn the key on and off, it's isolated. When I turn the key on, the plugs would go spark, big spark, 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 spark. But when I span it, when I actually, spun the engine, the sparks died. And I turned the key off and it would spark and backfire, because it's obviously drawing fuel through, not getting burnt, slinging it out into the exhaust. Turn the key off, big fat spark, bang, and one of the backfires blew this right hand carb straight off the cylinder head. It was just flopping down here. So I've had this problem before, and I cannot remember what it was, how I cured it, many years ago. But like I say, you both plugs out, spark, 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 nothing. Odd, very odd. The battery's fully charged. Everything is earthed. This is a good earth. That's an earth from the clocks. There's a good earth from the frame. I'm using, like I said, very small gauge trailer wire. My earth wire that has got several earths going into it is quite a big fat, so that if everything decides to earth itself out at once, that can more than handle the, God knows what that can take through. That's household mains, ring main earth cable. That's why it's yellow and green, and that's a good earth onto the frame. I cannot work out why it sparks when I turn the engine on, sparks when I turn it off, but it won't spark when I crank the engine over. All I've done, when I rewired it, all I've done is basically the clock. I've rewired the clocks, the headlamp, the tail lamp, extended the switch gears both sides, and bought the switch gear connectors down here. So I've not touched the charging or the ignition loom. I've got separate looms, so I can't suss out what I've done. All I've done was when I checked the ignition live, the battery warning light, like I said, the two probes were the wrong way round, and it's a little crack on the live, and I'm sure doing that I've earthed the diode board. I've taken a diode board off and put my voltmeter across it. They do, as diodes should, you put the pins on, the probes on one way, nothing, put them on the other, they all read current. I think it's about 600 ohms. I can't remember what it was, 680. That the whole, you got to scrape through the corrosion to get any sort of reading, because this has been, it's not open to the elements because there's a cover on it, but the cover's it's vented, and there's cobwebs behind there and dust, and so moisture you will get corrosion on there. But I just can't I can't seem to suss out why it will spark when I turn ignition on, spark when I turn ignition off, and stop sparking when I crank the engine. I can't seem to, because like I said, all I've done is extend the wiring harnesses from the switchgear and rewire the lights. I've not touched the charging or the ignition, so I don't know. All I can think is I've earthed the diode board and killed it. I think that, well, these things are so temperamental, you've only got to look at it wrong and it'll die. So I'll fit this, and we shall see what happens. Goodbye all.